Hi folks, how you doing? I'm Ross Minton. This is Grow Your Own Life Gardening. Today I thought I'd go through the ripening of green tomatoes. So if, like me, you're in the UK where we don't exactly get a lot of sun in the summer and tomatoes struggle to ripen, now, middle of August, is the time of year where you basically want to call it quits on your tomatoes. And by that I mean you don't want any more new growth. So I tend to cut all the leaves, all the new shoots, and even any yellow flowers I've got. Mid-August, I cut them away, I get rid of them. It looks absolutely brutal, but what you've got to remember is that in the UK, tomatoes are essentially an annual crop. You grow the plant from seed early on in the year, it grows away, it gets to a huge size, you harvest from it, and then you cut it down and you throw it in the compost bin. Now, the other things we get in the UK are blight and other kinds of funguses and stuff that love to attack tomatoes because we've got this wet, warm climate in the summer, and we've had a lot of rain this year. I mean, the ground is sodden, so there's moisture absolutely everywhere. So one of the best things you can do this time of year to help fend off disease is to cut all the foliage away. And because obviously the growing season for things like tomatoes is now coming to a close, there's no point letting the plant give too much energy into producing new growth or trying to set new fruit from new flowers. So basically, if you've got green tomatoes on your plant, that's great. You can still get them to ripen, and they will ripen on the vine quite happily without any leaves on there. But what they won't do is ripen if the plant is still producing new shoots. They just take longer, and you're more chance of your green tomatoes will then fall foul of some kind of disease or rot or something that will no doubt go wrong with them in late August, just because of the nature of our climate. Now, don't get me wrong, tomatoes are a fantastic crop to grow. I love growing tomatoes. They're pretty easy to grow, to be fair. You can just get your tomatoes, plant them, leave them completely, and you will get tomatoes from them. But as you can see from my tomatoes, I kind of left them in a bit of a sorry state because I ended up being in hospital for a few days and had a couple of weeks where I didn't come down the allotment. So they kind of went like an absolute tomato jungle, and they didn't get tied in, and they've flopped over, and they've done so many different things that they shouldn't have done. So now I'm just completely chopping them all back, getting rid of all the foliage, and then whatever tomatoes I've got on the plant will be all the tomatoes I get. It's not a very good crop this year, but I'm putting that down to me being away, and they didn't get watered properly and didn't get fed properly at certain times during the growing season. And that's no fault other than my own from being ill, really. And obviously my other half, who was coming down to help out, she isn't a gardener, so she didn't really know what to do. Don't get me wrong, she did a fantastic job and the plants were alive, but they could have done a little bit better. But you live and learn, don't you? And it's one of those things, it wasn't to be helped, so you just make best of a bad situation, really. A lot of people will also tell you that once you've cut down your tomatoes and you've taken a lot of the foliage off, that if you've got blight or some kind of fungus, that you shouldn't compost it, because obviously you can spread that around your garden. That's true, that it is the case, but I'm of the belief now that there's so much potato blight and tomato blight in the UK. I mean, I could just look around the allotment here and I can spot dozens of potato plants with it. I can drive through the countryside and I can see potatoes in the hedgerows that have growing wild, and they've got it, and I just don't think you can get away from it. So I actually compost my tomato leaves and my potato leaves. I have done for years, and I have no more blight than anyone else. And in fact, this year, when a lot of other potatoes and tomatoes I've seen on gardens and allotment around here have really been stung by the blight, my tomatoes have been okay. They've been nipped a little bit, but because I've kept on top of it and taken the leaves off, they've done all right, really. So again, it's one of those things where if you want to buy into that, burn everything with blight on, then do it. But I think as long as you give it a good long compost and you're leaving it for a couple of years and the compost pile's getting nice and hot, or you're feeding them to the chickens and the chickens are scratching it around and it's getting mixed in with chicken manure, it's fine. It's all good.